Pricing and trim levels have just been announced for the upcoming 2024 Kia EV9 all-electric SUV. Hey everybody, it's the Ioniq guy. If this is your first time to the channel, welcome. My name is Corbin. I cover all things Hyundai, Kia, Genesis, EV related. And today I'm going to be the Kia guy again because we're talking about the upcoming 2024 Kia EV9 all-electric 3-row SUV. The one of very few that's currently available for sale in the United States. So as of today, the options are pretty few and far between, and most of those other options are pretty pricey. This is going to be one of the more easily accessible 3-row electric SUVs, more for the mainstream audience. Granted, these prices are still fairly high. So let's start out with reservations. October 16th, reservations will open. You can place a refundable $750 deposit with Kia, and that will get you in the list for getting a Kia EV9. Now, they are strictly calling out in this press release that availability is going to be limited. So if you are really interested in getting one of these cars on October 16th at 1 p.m., make sure you go to Kia's website so that you can place your reservation. Now, the reservation doesn't guarantee you anything. If this is kind of a repeat of the Ioniq 5, then the reservation doesn't really mean anything. I had a reservation from within an hour of the Ioniq 5 being announced, and I still didn't get my car because of that reservation. I did my due diligence and I called multiple dealers and talked to multiple dealers, and I found one that was willing to sell me one at the price that I was willing to pay. So I still had to go out of my way and do some work, but it was a little bit of leverage in saying, hey, I was a reservation holder. It did kind of get me a little bit more preferential treatment in some of the dealerships. And the dealerships were also getting a kickback from Hyundai when that happened. Now, I will say, if you do make a reservation, you will receive multiple gifts when you purchase or lease your EV9, including a Webasto Go dual voltage portable EV charger, a complimentary 3-year Kia maintenance plan, and 1 year of available digital features and services. So if you haven't already heard, the Kia EV9 is going to be one of the first Kias that is kind of embracing this whole you can pay monthly for some of the features in the car. So we don't really know exactly what they're going to be putting in this plan. I think one of them is the weird pixelated lights in the front bumper that you're going to be able to change. And I think that is going to be a subscription type thing. So we'll find out when all of this actually does start going on sale. All people who buy or lease an EV9 will get 1,000 kilowatt hours or 1 megawatt hour of charging credits with Electrify America. So you will be getting a little bit of free charging for those road trips. I personally don't like that giveaway. It just clogs the EA stations even more with people who just want to charge for free on a daily basis. All right, so let's start with the base trim. That's going to be the light rear-wheel drive starting at $54,900 before a destination fee of $1,500. And I swear these destination fees just keep growing and growing. So I'm just going to read right off of this sheet. The well-equipped EV9 Lite redefines the entry point for all electric vehicles, blah, blah, blah. Will come with standard DC fast charging on an 800-volt architecture, accommodate up to 7 passengers, 19-inch alloy wheels, 8-way power adjustable driver's seat with heating and ventilation. Nice to see that. Now this car will feature Digital Key 2, which uses ultra-wideband wireless technology. So unlike with the Ioniq 5, the Ioniq 6, the Kia EV6, all these cars that are currently being made, you do not have to take your Android phone and hold it up to the door handle of the car to unlock it. You can simply just be in the car's presence, it'll recognize your phone, and you will be able to get in and drive off. Digital Key 2 also now supports Apple, so you're not just limited to an Android phone anymore, so that's really cool. This car is going to come with Hyundai Kia's latest version of software called CCNC, or Connected Car Navigation Cockpit. And this is starting to roll out to all their cars, not just their EVs. But this system specifically is going to get a software update to wireless Android Auto and CarPlay, which some of you might love and some of you aren't too keen on. They are claiming better route planning here. They're saying navigation-based charging guidance upon arrival time and distance to empty estimates can help quell range anxiety. Can't possibly be any worse than the current EV6 or Ioniq 5's route planning, which is pretty bad in my personal opinion. This will be powered by a permanent magnet synchronous electric motor that produces 215 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. So in my opinion, that seems like a fair starting price for this car. I have not actually seen one in person, but I have heard this is a big family SUV. So this is probably the EV that a lot of people have been waiting for, especially at that price point. This undercuts a lot of the competition by a significant amount. Now, we do have to keep in mind that Kia does not qualify for the full federal tax credit for this car right now. There is the lease loophole. You can lease the car through Kia. Kia gets the tax credit and they pass along the lease incentive to you as a capital cost reduction. Now, starting next year, this car is going to be made in the United States, so it will qualify for at least half of the federal tax credit. We don't know about the battery componentry yet, so it might only qualify for half if it's using batteries sourced from outside of the country. So what they don't call out in this press release is the size of the battery pack on the base model, but we know from previous documentation that it is going to be a 77.4 kilowatt hour battery pack, just like in my Ioniq 5. So we can expect probably low to mid 200s in terms of range with this car. It is going to be significantly less efficient versus an Ioniq 5 or an EV6, but it is rear-wheel drive, so there is a little bit of a benefit there. Now, stepping up from the light rear-wheel drive is the light long-range rear-wheel drive, and that is going to be bumped up to a 100 kilowatt-hour battery pack, which should mean of all the trims of the EV9, it's going to have the best range of any of them. They have not provided any of their EPA testing yet, so we don't know range figures yet. But if you have a 100 kilowatt-hour battery pack and you're averaging about 2.8, 2.9 miles per kilowatt hour, that equates to about 280, maybe 300 miles of range if you're really careful. We'll just have to wait and see. Now with the long-range light trim, the second row also becomes captain's chairs. So you're going to go down from 7 seats to 6 seats with anything above the base trim. Now I'm a little confused here. After that statement, it says the EV9 also features an onboard power generator or vehicle to load, which can power certain appliances. It can also support vehicle to home and vehicle to grid. I don't know if that means it's not applied on the base trim. That would be kind of a big omission because vehicle to load is one of the big selling points of all of Kia, Genesis, and Hyundai's electric vehicles. So even the Kia Niro and the Hyundai Kona both get vehicle to load. So I don't know why they would leave it out on the base trim here. Maybe they just misplaced that line. So the light long range rear wheel drive is going to come in at $59,200. So that's a $4,300 price increase over the base trim. Now, stepping up from the light long range is the EV9 Wind, and that is where you get all-wheel drive added to this car. So you'll get 2 motors producing 379 horsepower and 443 pound-feet of torque. The ground clearance also increases up to 7.8 inches. They don't specify what the base trim is. I can't imagine it being less than 7 inches. So maybe you're gaining 3/4 of an inch here. We'll wait and see. A heat pump and heated steering wheel are also included on the Wind trim. So it sounds like if you get either of the light trims, you are not going to get a heat pump. So if you're somebody that lives in a cold climate and you want good, efficient heating of your EV, you might want to consider looking at the Wind because it doesn't sound like the light is going to be coming with the heat pump. And I personally have gotten so used to having a heated steering wheel in my car that I don't know if that's something I could live without. The Wind all-wheel drive trim is going to sticker for $63,900. So again, another $4,300 price increase from the trim below it. Now stepping up to the Land trim, which is the next trim line, is kind of where you get a lot of the creature comforts, the real kind of glammy kind of stuff that the car is going to have. And that's going to include the digital pattern lighting grille, which I was talking about before, 20-inch wheels, projector visual exterior flare. It gets a digital rear view mirror, a 14-speaker Meridian audio system, and some other features that aren't really called out here. With the Land trim, you also get surround view monitor and blind spot view monitor, which are the cameras that look down either side of the car, or the bird's eye view when parking. The Land trim is going to sticker for $69,900, so an increase of $6,000 over the Wind. And then rounding out the top is going to be the EV9 GT line, which will add the unique front and rear fascia, 21-inch wheels with gloss black finishes. It has exclusive interior trim details. You'll find the relaxation seat like in the Ioniq 5 where you can recline all the way back with the calf rest. Now they're claiming here standard remote smart parking assist 2. I don't know if 2 has been on the cars I've been testing recently. Maybe it's a new iteration of the smart park that can help you parallel park or perpendicular park your car. Now this car also gets a bump in power. 2 motors, 379 horsepower, and 516 pound-feet of torque. So you get a little bit more torque. The horsepower figure stays the same, but torque is what you really want in an EV. Now what is a little disappointing here is there's no mention of Kia's Level 3 autonomous driving system being present on this car. that is hands off the steering wheel but still paying attention to the road in front of you. Kind of like Ford Blue Cruise, kind of like Cadillac Super Cruise. That is Kia's current iteration of that technology, but there's no mention of it here. So whether that's coming to the US in the near future remains to be unseen. And rounding out the top of the pricing scale, GT line is going to be $73,900, which is an increase of $4,000 over the Land. So you've got a big spread here in terms of pricing, almost $20,000. So at that top end, could I justify an extra $20,000 for these features? I don't know if I personally could. I am likely going to be putting in a deposit on one of these cars. I'm not saying I'm going to buy one. I'm putting in a deposit just in case. This week, Kia is having their first annual EV Day, where they're going to show off a bunch of upcoming products that I'm really interested in, namely the Kia EV3, the EV4, and the EV5. We kind of have some ideas what those cars are going to be. The Kia EV3 / possibly EV4 are kind of going to replace the Kia Soul in the lineup, that kind of subcompact crossover SUV. And the EV5 is going to be more similar to like a Ford Escape or a Honda CR-V in terms of size. So that's definitely going to be going straight after the market for the small crossover here in the US. And personally for me, that's the size car that I would prefer. I don't necessarily want a car as big as the EV9. If the EV5 features just as many cool things that the EV9 has, specifically vehicle to home and vehicle to grid for me, I would bite on that over the EV9 most likely, just because this car is going to be pretty tight in my garage. I like parking my cars in the garage, so I want something that I can actually maneuver around when it's parked in there. So yeah, I'm going to put in a deposit. Don't know if I'll act on it, but I want to get it in just in case I decide to get one for the channel to share with all of you. Now, I never said I was going to be the Ioniq guy forever, so I want to kind of diversify, and if I am going to diversify, I would like to stay within Hyundai, Kia, Genesis products. So deliveries are set to begin between now and the end of the year, so this car is very close to getting into customers' hands. If you own an EV6 or an Ioniq 5 or an Ioniq 6, will you be putting in a deposit on this car? Is this car more suitable for your lifestyle? Let me know down in the comments section. I'm genuinely interested in your thoughts. This big SUV is currently struggling in terms of sales in its home country of Korea. Sales have really tanked for this car, and the pricing isn't too far off from the US prices. So are Americans ready for these prices? It's not a cheap car, but people love big SUVs. I see Escalades every single day, big Tahoes all the time. The Jeep Grand Wagoneer, which is like an almost $100,000 Jeep. Those are very popular in my neck of the woods in kind of more rural Connecticut. So if you guys aren't already subscribed, make sure you subscribe because I'm going to cover EV Day in detail. And if you like today's video, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, everybody.